Welcome to the Under 8 Podcast, a daily college basketball show brought to you every weekday in under 8 minutes. At the time of recording, it is Wednesday, January 17th, 11:02 p.m. My name is Josh Mullenix. On today's pod, Donovan Clingan's return to the court, Houston's bounce back win, and a peculiar situation at TCU. It's all right now on the Under 8 Podcast. Josh Doering is here with me. The final score of this game, Josh, UConn 62, number one for the first time since 2009. UConn 62, Creighton 48. That is the result of the evening. But of course, a big part of this equation is the return of Donovan Clingan. He did not start in the game. He played 15 minutes off the bench, 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, 3 of 8 from the field. A preseason All-American player back on the court. It's good to see.
One of those blocks was a nice reminder of just what Donovan Clingan offers. He whacked a three-pointer into, I don't even remember where the ball ended. Somewhere.
It might. I've heard it's orbiting now.
Yeah, right. Outer space somewhere. Yeah. It left the galaxy. They didn't need him, which is really, from a UConn standpoint, the story of this to me. Nobody played particularly well. I mean, sure. Tristan Newton was fine. Cam Spencer was good. And they were just fine without Donovan Clingan. And now you get to bring him back in, but it's not like he had a bunch of pressure on him. Like you said, he comes off the bench. He just kind of gets to get reacclimated, get some minutes under his belt again, get used to starting to ramp up so that come crunch time, when they really need him, he's there ready to go. Mm-hmm. But the consistency is the impressive thing about this team for me, because last season we came on here so many times and went, I don't know how they lost. I don't have an explanation for it. Mm-hmm. It's just weird. They just lost Big East games for reasons that kind of defied. It wasn't like there was one thing to point to where you went, and part of it was shooting, and Jordan Hawkins got into a slump and things like that. But this team is not all that different from last year's team. They also look like a juggernaut at times. But from a game-to-game standpoint, whether it's because they're not so reliant on Clingan, because Tristan Newton's been so good, because Cam Spencer has been so good, you have this combination of the returners who have elevated their game, specifically Caravan and Tristan Newton and Donovan Clingan, obviously. You have an impact transfer who's done this whole college basketball at a high level thing in Cam Spencer, and the freshmen who haven't been spectacular, but have been contributing members and showing you from time to time why they're a highly touted recruiting class. It's all coming together, but it's not like there's one thing where you go, oh, that's why they're number one in the country. Everybody is just doing enough, and they're so well balanced, and they just show up every night, which is something not even last year's team could say.
Yeah, I think the thing I'll be watching over the next couple weeks is where UConn's Big East defensive KenPom number goes. It's 8th after this game tonight, so after a 48-point defensive performance, it's still 8th. So I'm going to be watching where that goes, because they are 33rd in the country in defensive efficiency. It's obviously a better defensive team with Donovan Clingan on the floor. It was a top 10 in both efficiency categories last year. So that's the only thing I'm watching. But other than that, like you said, an incredibly balanced team. Creighton, are we sure Creighton's good? Is there anything inspiring going on in Omaha right now?
They're good. They're not great. And we haven't gotten a chance to talk about this yet. We were texting back and forth a while ago. I think it was the Marquette game where I said, I just don't like this offense. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the story of the game here that really is the takeaway. Obviously, Clingan's going to get the headlines because the number one team in the country looked really good and brought their behemoth center, who's an All-American candidate, back. But Creighton shot 35% from the field, 23% from three, with 8 assists and 14 turnovers. When I checked during the game, they were 24th in offensive efficiency. You bet on this team, and I bought into this team based on the idea that this was going to be an elite offense.
Yes.
They don't take care of the basketball. They don't physically handle the ball very well. I can't tell you how many times I've watched Shireman specifically, but Ashworth at times have the ball stripped or just dribble it and lose it. They don't have somebody to facilitate the offense. Ashworth has not been spectacular. Shireman's been very good, but UConn took him out of this game, and all of a sudden, they didn't get the ball to Kalkbrenner for a while at the beginning. Then all of a sudden, they were force feeding him, and he couldn't do anything against Clingan. They are good because they're good defensively.
Mm-hmm. Which is not something that it was a question of how good can Ryan Kalkbrenner's defense make Creighton's defense as a whole.
Right.
That was something that we were talking about preseason.
Right. They have changed the identity of this program to be defense oriented. However, this was supposed to be the offense that takes you into that next stratosphere, and it's simply not.
No, they don't. They just don't do anything on the offensive end that generates easy offense. They don't take care of the basketball. They don't offensive rebounds. They are 341st in the country in free throw rates. They are just inside the top 100 3-point field goal percentage. That's fine. They're third in 2-point field goal percentage. So, but some of those things that just make like getting to the stripe as many times as possible, creating some turnovers. They are 362nd in the country in forcing turnovers. 362nd. So they don't get any easy baskets there either. So it's ironically a defense that's really good while also not. I don't think it boosts their offense all that much. It's that type of defense they play. They just make it really hard for you to score, but they don't. I'm not sure they're doing any favors anywhere for their offense.
No. The last question you put on our rundown here is Creighton the most disappointing preseason top 10 team. And then you answered that question with my answer. It is still Michigan State because at least Creighton is good and has a good resume. Have they looked anywhere near as good as you and I thought they were going to? No. But Michigan State is fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. That is the most disappointing preseason top 10 team. Baylor's pretty close at number 2, though. Sorry, not Baylor, Creighton. I don't know where that came from.
Baylor out of left field. Baylor, Creighton right now. Let's see. Oh, I scrolled too far. Creighton right now has 2 quad 1 wins. Michigan State is 2-6 in quad 1. Creighton is 2-2. Anyways, Michigan State is the right answer. I just think they're just so different from what I thought they were going to be this year.
Yes.
The Blue Jays. It's a little disappointing. In the Big 12, Houston got a nice dose of welcome to the Big 12 early in their Big 12 schedule. They come home 77-54. They beat up on Texas Tech this evening. Jamal Shed, 29-10 on 12 of 16 shooting. Sure, I'll take that and a cup of coffee from Starbucks. Thank you.
For a while there, he was really just going toe-to-toe by himself at Texas Tech. I mean, easily the best game of his career. That was something else. He just looked around and said, all right, boys, we're going to score 70 points today. If I have to score all 70 for myself, I'm going to do it. But we're going to get to 70. Yeah. We're going to end this. Fran Fashola made this point on the broadcast multiple times. He's absolutely right. You just have to be able to move forward in the Big 12, good or bad. And this game was a perfect example of that. You lost 2 tough ones on the road if you're Houston. No need to worry about it. It's going to happen to everybody in this conference from time to time. As UCF picks up yet another win today over Texas. Texas Tech standpoint, right? You come in 9 wins in a row. All of a sudden, you went from kind of afterthought to ranked team up there at the top of the Big 12 standings. It went horribly. That's okay. Got to move on because, oh, by the way, I think they have 4 of their next 5 games are against ranked opponents. Starting
Texas
with, I
Tech.
believe, Yeah.
BYU, Oklahoma, TCU, Cincinnati, Baylor
Yeah.
is there. They get a break with UCF, a UCF team that's now beaten Kansas and Texas, by the way.
Right.
And then they get Kansas, Iowa State, TCU in a stretch again.
Yeah.
So
So
there you go.
you just gotta, and from the Houston standpoint, just stop the bleeding, regroup. You're fine. They got
That
back to
bleeding, by the way, that's 5 combined points across 2
right.
Big 12 road games.
Right. Yeah. We were consistent with this. It was never that big of a deal. There's no need to reevaluate Houston as a team. They proved that the couple things here defensively for Houston. Texas Tech had only failed to score 60 once and failed to get to 70 twice all season.
Mhm.
And they barely got to 50. That's the kind of defense Houston was playing. And then the second thing that I did want to mention, LJ Cryer hit a couple threes pretty early in this game, and I thought, oh, maybe he's going to get going a little bit. Didn't really happen. Now, to be fair, he didn't need to play at the end of the game because,
Yeah.
it was over. But that to me is still the thing when you're talking, as we always are, about Houston as a national title contender. Jamal Shed is not going to be producing this many points for you every single game. They are good enough that when Cryer struggles, if they can hold teams to 50 to 60 points, whether it's Emmanuel Sharp, whether it's Jamal Shed, somebody's going to step up to lead the offense to get them where they need to be so they can win 65-62. Or Jamal Shed's going to have the game of his life and you get to 77.
Yeah.
But to go 6 games in a row and to beat the best teams in the country, game after game after game in the NCAA tournament, to win a Big 12 title, LJ Cryer needs to get going again. This is not a sustainable formula to win the Big 12 or to win a national championship. But that's the bar. That's what we're talking about.
He had 20 in their first game against in Big 12 play against West Virginia. He has a combined 18 points since then.
Yep. Yeah.
Got to be better. Got to be better. Of course, relatively speaking, not got to be better for Houston to be a top. Like they're not going to fall off the face of the earth. But when we're talking about Houston, we're talking about it in the context of Final Fours and national championships, and that's a non-negotiable for Kelvin Sampson's team. Last but not least, and this is really something, Josh. TCU women's basketball is holding open tryouts on Thursday and Friday for full-time students interested in walking on for the remainder of the 2023-24 season. Josh, why are they doing this?
They're doing this because they don't have enough players. Not because of eligibility issues or something like that, not because of a bunch of suspensions, but because of injuries.
Mm-hmm. Now, Josh, remind me, how many games in a row did this TCU team win to begin the season?
Yeah, that number is 14.
Jeez.
Which makes this, of course, it's a horrible situation no matter what team it's going through because all of these players put so much work into it. And
without being said, 14-0, 0-14 doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
But still.
For this team, this program that doesn't get this many kind of opportunities to go into a conference that has, a Baylor team that's playing really well, or at least was, right? A Texas team that's up there and also has their own injury issue at this point. But to get to go compete with some of the best teams in the country and see where you really stack up after that really good non-conference schedule. So, the star Sedona Prince of TikTok fame against the NCAA way back when, it was already injured. Then they announced 2 more players this week are going to go have season-ending surgeries, or they're done for the year because of injuries that they've suffered recently. Trying to play through them to even have enough players to play these last couple games, things like that. And of course, you got to just do what's in the best interest of the player. So 2 more got shut down. They just don't. So the other part we should say is this is all sort of becoming news because they forfeited their games against number 7 Kansas State tonight and number 24 Iowa State on Saturday.
Yeah.
In order to hold the open tryouts to get a team on the floor to finish Big 12 play.
Yeah.
It's really something. We wanted to talk about it. Obviously, you hope all of these players can recover as quickly as possible and that by the end of the season, if they can just give themselves a chance, that they are at least a healthier, more complete team. Of course, you're not going to get all these players back, but can they at least have some semblance of the team that started this season so well?
It really is something. The social media post that the TCU women's basketball team put up on Twitter this afternoon, you just have to be a full-time TCU student. You have to have a physical, and you have to have high school basketball experience. That is that you don't see that very often. Do you remember when we were at school, that one year needed more needed more just needed more practice dummies basically. They just needed more people to fill out like 5-on-5 in certain situations,
Yeah,
and
the open tryouts.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
This is a whole different level.
Oh yeah,
Whole different level.
yeah. And
Wild.
this is TCU,
Yeah.
right? This is Big 12, big time athletics, big brand, producing professional athletes consistently across multiple sports. It, it's going to be a story to follow, and it would be a phenomenal thing if some of these we get some really good stories out of this, where some of these players who never thought they'd have the opportunity come in and play really, really well and help this team win some Big 12 games. And yeah,
That'd be
it's
sick.
yeah, right. This is not something you see every day, obviously, in the world of all of the recruiting today and the resources TCU has. I've never seen anything like it. It's it's a very, very sad situation. Hopefully there are some positives to come out of it in terms of the stories we get to talk about the rest of the season.
I'd be I- I'd be pretty excited if I was writing for student newspapers at TCU. That'd be that how about that? Being able to present some of those stories would
Mhm.
be awesome. I believe that's all I have for you. We'll be back tomorrow night, unless you've got anything else. Anything
Couple
else?
things real quick. Florida State, 5 straight ACC wins, beat Miami on the road. Leonard Hamilton got his team rolling. Didn't necessarily expect that one, but here we are.
Sure.
Looked like it was going to be Wake Forest, and now Florida State has overtaken Wake Forest in the upward ACC trajectory battle. The other one, what a bad night for Nebraska. Jawan Gary leaves the game with a non-contact injury that looked like those kind of injuries that you don't come back anytime soon.
Mhm.
Again, not a doctor, not trying to diagnose anything, but as we all know, non-contact, never a good sign. He was just
Nope.
running down the floor and then he stopped running and was clearly in a lot of pain. And on top of that, you also lost to Rutgers in a game which you led most of the way and then legitimately could not score a basket from the field for essentially half of the second half. Rutgers still tried to give you a couple opportunities to take control of the game back. They didn't really want to win it. And then ultimately prevail in overtime. That's a tough loss that was avoidable in so many ways for Fred Hoiberg's team. And on top of it, now you've got an important player that we're gonna have to see what his status is moving forward. We're gonna keep following this team. They're gonna get wins at KC Tominaga Court. We already know that.
You don't
Question
just walk
is,
into Pinnacle Bank. You
right,
don't just
right.
walk into Pinnacle Bank.
Can they get enough wins on the road to put themselves in position to make the NCAA tournament? This is one they very easily could have had and let slip away. So frustrating night for Nebraska.
That'll do it. Wednesday, January 17th. We'll be back for one more show this week tomorrow evening. Till then, take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your shows. Follow the Under 8 Pod on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Thanks so much for being here. We will see you tomorrow.